This is the Red Hot Chili Peppers singing Danny California, and welcome to a brand new episode of Dylan Knows, episode 251, Ninjaless in San Diego. San Diego, California. What's interesting about this also is this song is, I have this thing in my head. I used to work with these two guys named Philip and Corey at Diamond Comics. Philip is a big wig now with Boom Studios and comics, and Corey is creating his own board game. So I always had this thought of a TV show starring the three of us, and that would be the theme song for it. It'd be like Philip would be the straight-laced guy, Corey would be the, I don't know, not really maybe not the sidekick, but was an old friend of ours, and I was the loser who was causing all kinds of trouble, and it was adventures and stuff like that. It was just a weird idea I had. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about today's episode, 251, Ninjaless in San Diego. If you've been noticing the last few episodes, I've been trying to make my titles a bit more creative and funny and enticing maybe. But there's reasons why I have this. I'm going to discuss them. This is annoying me. Okay, I'll put that right there. We'll be talking about San Diego Comic-Con is this week. It's still going on. Tomorrow is the last day because today is Saturday. So tomorrow's the last day. So the majority of the reveals and news and stuff like that has already hit. It started on Wednesday night with the preview night, went Thursday, Friday, today, and it goes through tomorrow. And then after tomorrow, they've got to break it down and head back. So I've always wanted to do San Diego, and I told you last week that I was in line to do it when I worked at Diamond, but I left there before I got a chance to do it. So, oh well, but it's probably a whole lot of work because I have done conventions before, and it's a lot of work. I mean, you're working pretty much the whole weekend. You get maybe a little bit of time to look around, but not a lot. Anyway, we're going to talk about all the stuff that came out of San Diego. A lot of stuff came out of San Diego this week. Some of it good, some of it not so good. We'll be discussing a lot of that. We'll also be discussing a lot of this also next week. I'm going to try to get in touch with MJ Khan, and we're going to hit that as well. And thanks to my one viewer for showing up for 2 seconds and leaving. Thank you. Guess I'm boring you to death. Oh, well, that's fine. It's fine. My hair looks good, though. Yeah, I need to get it cut. It's all poofy. We'll talk about where the Ninjaless aspect came from. We'll talk about... what else we're going to talk about? Pokemon Go had an event today, the Zapdos raids, or today was Zapdos Day. We've also got some other stories of interest. There's really not a lot out this week, so this might be a short episode. The majority of stuff is going to be San Diego stuff because that pretty much has been controlling this week's news stuff. We'll also talk a little bit more about In Dreams, and also a little bit more about movies that came out this week. And I will do my review of one of my new favorite movies from 2004, which I'd always been interested in seeing. I finally got a chance to see it, and it did exactly what I wanted to. So let's hit with the Ninjaless thing. You probably saw this story somewhere, but there is a small town in Japan, Japanese city, claims they are facing a ninja shortage. I don't exactly know what a ninja would do for your city. Would it protect it like Batman? I don't know. I couldn't tell you because I don't know. I mean, I thought ninjas were like thieves and ones who broke into your house when you didn't know they were there, criminals taking stuff and then disappeared out without a trace. They are offering $85,000 a year to be the ninja in this small town. So it's almost like I need to learn how to be a ninja and travel to Japanese City and be a ninja for this city for $85,000 a year. Yeah, that's almost triple what I get paid now. Almost, not quite. So that's where the Ninjaless story came back from. So on a sad note, locally, the big sports story of the week was Manny Machado, the Baltimore Orioles shortstop, was a Gold Glove third baseman for the Orioles for the longest time. He was drafted by the Orioles and came up through the Orioles system and has been tearing it up over the last few years. But the Orioles are in a spiral right now. They are rebuilding. So he's also going to be due for a big payday. Not ninja money, as I just talked about, but more along the lines of like a $300 to $350 million payday. The Orioles couldn't afford him, so they trade him to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Down in California, there's a connection there again for 5 prospects. Now, the thing that drives me crazy is Baltimore fans have been clamoring for this type of trade since last year. And they're like, if we're not going to sign him now, we need to trade him now and get prospects who are going to help us in the future. Here's the thing. Prospects are called prospects, which means that there is no guarantee that these guys are as good as everyone claims to be, because prospects, they are people who have the potential to be an excellent baseball player or prospect in any type of sport. And there is no guarantee that they're going to be great. The number one prospect in the world, whoever has him, when he gets brought up, he might stink up the joint or he might be average. There have been some prospects who've panned out. Manny was one of the prospects that panned out pretty good. But there have been an enormous amount of prospects who have not panned out very well. And again, no guarantee that they're going to, but everyone is, freaking out. It's like, you need to get prospects. Prospects are the only thing that'll be good for Manny Machado to trade for him. Prospects are going to make our team better. No, there's no guarantee, again, that they're going to. And plus, they're young prospects. These players that we got in this trade, these 5 players, most are probably not going to see the majors for about 2 to 3 years. A lot of people are thinking probably closer to 2020, but that's still 2 years away, believe it or not. It's not right around the corner. It's still 2 years. It's 730 days away before they might even come up, and they might come up in September call-ups maybe to get a little bit of extra arms in the bullpen or running or pinch hitters or runners on base, whatever, to get a little taste of major league stuff. But they're not going to be up here for an extended period of time, because baseball is different than football. With football, whoever you draft in football, most of the time, the number 1 draft picks will be starting for your team that year. So we had 2 first-round. The Ravens had 2 first-round draft picks, a quarterback and a tight end. The tight end is going to probably, unless he gets injured or he just looks terrible, is probably going to start this season and is going to do an excellent job. The quarterback, Lamar Jackson, is still learning, but if our quarterback, Joe Flacco, has a meltdown or injures himself or whatever, or is terrible, they'll bring him in sooner than later to see what he can do. So prospects are prospects. There's no guarantees. And the people who are clamoring, saying, need prospects, they're going to make our team better, there's no guarantee they're going to make your team better. So sad news. Farewell, Manny. It was nice knowing you, but to be honest, I'm not really – it's a baseball player. I don't have quite the – I need to hold him and hug him and squeeze him. I'm going to cry and my life is over type of thing, which some people have online, which was funny. What else is going on? For those who watch The Walking Dead, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bunch of these little news things, and I'll hit a bunch of San Diego stuff. For those who watched The Walking Dead last year, Daryl was held captive and tortured via music. Easy Street was the song. And they are actually, the federal agents are actually using that song against ICE protesters, protesting ICE. So they're actually using the Easy Street song as a way to torture protesters of ICE. That's just cruel and unusual punishment, because it is one of these songs that you just want to smash the record player when you hear it. So 12 more moons were discovered around Jupiter, which moves it from 69 moons to 81 now. From what I've heard, all of them are pretty, except for one is a pretty interesting looking difference that you haven't, different than any moon you've really seen before. So, it's expected to have that many. Saturn has about that many. I think Uranus has about that many as well. Even Neptune's got a good amount too, because these are all big gas giants with huge gravitational pulls that asteroids, comets, whatever that fly past the planets, the gravitational pulls are going to suck these things to rotate around the planet, hence 81 moons in Jupiter. What the heck is that? And water safety, what? I don't know. We'll get back to that then. David Tennant, who everyone knows as, mostly knows him as the 10th Doctor, reprised his role as the 10th Doctor on a live show of the live stage show of the Muppet Show that was done. I think it was probably somewhere over in England, where they were doing a sketch based on the Pigs in Space sketch on the Muppet Show, and he came in dressed as the 10th Doctor with, you know, the shoes and the jacket and the voice he uses and stuff like that. So it was kind of fun for those who like David Tennant as the 10th Doctor to see him. Oh, filtration straw. I don't know what that other aspect of it is. Oh, drink any water safely. Okay. I can make fun of myself because of my awful handwriting. It's a shame you can't see this. It's terrible. I saw something on Facebook. A filtration straw was this giant, it almost looks like a doobie marijuana cigarette, this big fatty. It's a straw, though, and supposedly you can drink any type of water because it filters it out before you drink it. So you put it in the water and you sip through it, and the water goes through the filter, which takes out all the disgusting, terrible, awful, bad stuff for you and just gives you the straight up liquid refreshment that you need, which means you can, you know, do dirty rainwater puddles or dirty rivers, dirty lakes, streams, whatever, creeks, and drink the water without fear of getting sick. Now, I don't know how well it works, because messing around with water is not something you want to deal with, particularly if you're in a situation like Tom Hanks was in Castaway. By the way, great movie, which is why I brought it up. Scott Troutman's the one who's watching right now. Do I need Rosetta Stone for my own handwriting? Yeah, I probably do. It's awful, man. It really is. I don't know. It's just, I need something. The problem is that my mind is 3 steps ahead of my hand. So I've already had the idea in my head, and now I'm moving on to the next one, but I haven't written it yet. So I'm like, oh, I got to catch up with my brain. So I do a bunch of squiggly lines, and I'm like, what the hell am I saying here? So we'll see. You know, I'm just not so sure about drinking dirty water, particularly with a filtration straw. I get it. It's a good idea. I don't know if it's smart to do that, but you know, at least someone is thinking of something, you know, to try to figure out a way to help people who don't have access to clean water. Tom Hanks was robbed in Castaway too. He was fantastic. Anyway, let's see. Bruce Willis had a roast on Comedy Central, and it's good to see actors and actresses who understand the purpose of a roast. The purpose of a roast is to have a guest of honor who gets roasted, in this case Bruce Willis, and gets co-stars, friends, other people. A lot of comedians also come in and they make jokes at Bruce Willis's expense, or the actor, whoever is getting roasted, at their expense. Now, sometimes they also make jokes about the people who are in the room with them. That's also a given for a celebrity roast as well. But there have been some actors who have totally lost their freaking minds about being insulted as they were. It's like, what do you expect? Do you even know what a roast is? I mean, I know what a roast is. If someone says, Dylan, we want to roast you, I'd be like, yeah, I don't know if I really want to be roasted, to be honest. But in some cases, it's fun to laugh at yourself. I mean, I roast myself enough as it is. But in this case, Bruce Willis got it, which is interesting because if you've ever read any of Kevin Smith's like not really autobiographies, but he's written a bunch of books about, I guess it would be kind of like autobiographies, you know, stuff about his career and stuff like that. There's a whole chapter devoted to what a dick Bruce Willis was to him. Even after the time when he wasn't a director, when they worked together in Die Hard, when Kevin Smith was called in to be an actor, they had a great time working together there. But the minute that Kevin Smith started calling the shots, Bruce Willis had an issue with him. Now, I don't know if there was a situation or whatever. I'm just getting it from Kevin Smith's perspective, so I don't know. In this case, so Bruce Willis got the jokes. And it'll be broadcast on Comedy Central soon. I think it's next weekend. It was already taped, so they'll edit out all the bad language and stuff like that, or bleep out the bad language, or break it down so that it fits in a 2-hour window or 1-hour window, whatever they want to do, and get the best highlights. One of the best highlights, though, was seeing Bruce's ex-wife Demi Moore come out and totally roast him, and this is what I found impressive, and this is why I mentioned it in my show today. So Demi Moore just let loose on him and did exactly what she was supposed to in a roast, making comments about their relationship together, his time in bed with them, and the way that he raised their kids and stuff like that. And it kept cutting to Bruce's reaction, and Bruce was laughing his ass off. He was enjoying it. Because he gets it. He gets what a roast is. And somehow down the line, I guess he was going to, because you're allowed to give a rebuttal in your roast, and roast the people who roasted you. And I guess it was because this scene they showed, which you'll see when you watch the show on Comedy Central, had Bruce and Demi in a big bear hug, and he was laughing and she was laughing, and they were enjoying each other's company, and he had no ill will towards her. They looked like they were, not in love, but they were showing respect for their prior relationship. They have 3 kids together. So he's still an aspect in her life, obviously, but to see the two of them together, and because you don't really see them together because they're not together. But when you saw them together, it was almost as like no time had gone by. He generally seemed happy to see her. She generally seemed happy to be with him. They hugged each other. They knew that they were jokes, stuff like that. And then Bruce goes up and he roasts everybody. He roasted Demi, and Demi was laughing her ass off because she got it also. So, I like that. And despite what I've heard about Bruce Willis, the fact is, when you get the idea of a roast, that's always fun because you get it. You understand it's all done in good fun. It's not personal, and you get it. And if it is, it might be slightly personal, but it's a way that something that you might know about yourself and any flaws you may have. But I also bring this up because there's been a debate going on for the longest time that Die Hard, which is one of Bruce Willis's biggest hit movies, the original one, was actually a Christmas movie because it takes place on Christmas Eve, and there's a Christmas miracle in it, and happy ending, and all this stuff, despite the fact of it being a high-scale action film, hugely violent, lots of gunplay. But there are factions who are adamant that the movie is a Christmas movie, and there are other factions like, no, it's just an action film set at Christmas time. Bruce Willis put that all to bed, or maybe not, because even though he's the star of it, the debate's still going to rage. Bruce Willis says Die Hard is definitely not a Christmas movie. Is that going to sway the people who believe it is? Hell no, it's not. It's someone's opinion. So, in my opinion, I mean, I get why people think it's a Christmas movie because it does have Christmas music. It does have a happy ending. It takes place at Christmas time. Let's see what Scott say. Scott says it's a Christmas movie. So, Scott, and you're not going to change your mind, right? I mean, no matter what Bruce Willis says, you're not going to change your mind. And I don't think anybody's going to change their mind. So, to me, I don't watch it at Christmas time. I have my own Christmas movies I watch at Christmas time. Die Hard is not one of them. I'm not going to say it's not a Christmas story, and I'm not going to say it is a Christmas movie. So I'm going to be, what's the term? Abstention. I'm going to abstain from this. If you can't abstain from it, you have to give us an answer. I would say then I don't think it's a Christmas movie, but that's just me. But I get why people think it is. And you know what? It doesn't bother me either way. If you think it's a Christmas movie, by all means, it's a Christmas movie. I love to do this type of stuff. I like to watch movies that are set around certain times on those times. A good example I'll give you, and I wasn't going to talk about this, but I think I will because it actually makes sense. Actually, I was going to talk about it right here. Yesterday, July 20th, was the 49th anniversary of the moon landing. July 20th, 1969. It just so happens to be my stepmom's birthday also. And my brother-in-law's birthday is today, the day after. So he was born July 21st, 1969. So he was born the day after man landed on the moon. So he's been alive since men landed on the moon, which is funny. Anyway, next year's going to be the big one. It's going to be the 50th anniversary. You're going to see a ton of stuff about it. I guarantee that as well. You'll see it. And in fact, later this year, Jake Gyllenhaal is in, I think it's Jake Gyllenhaal, or is it the other actor? It's not Gyllenhaal, it's the other actor. Ryan something or other, who was in Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner. Let me just get that. Anyway, it's a Neil Armstrong biopic. It's coming out later this fall. And let's just double check this first, man. Here it is, 2018 movie. It is, where's your cast here? Ryan Gosling, okay. Ryan Gosling, Damien Chazelle, who was the Oscar-winning director of La La Land, and Ryan Gosling, who was in La La Land, reteamed for this biopic focusing on Neil Armstrong called First Man, which is coming out October 12th of this year, 2018. So I've seen the trailer for it. It looks interesting. I like biopics, so it'll be interesting. But one of my favorite movies that I watch every year around the time of the moon landing is a movie called The Dish. Now, I know most of you never heard of it before. If you've watched my show plenty of times, I talk about this movie all the time. So bear with me, because there are probably people who are like, what the hell is The Dish? The Dish is an Australian movie from 1999 when it was the 30th anniversary of the moon landing. And it focuses on the true story of the guys who ran the radio telescope in Parkes, Australia, who helped NASA keep tabs on Apollo 11 on its mission to the moon, and also was the only telescope to have enough power to show the television pictures that were being beamed from the moon back down to Earth. Now, that being said, there's controversy about that movie. Honeysuckle Creek, which is another radio telescope down that way, are disputing the claims in The Dish that the Parkes dish was the only one that got the main focus, was the main focus of all the Apollo 11 stuff, and Honeysuckle Creek was just like a secondary thing. In actuality, and I've done some research on it, this is the true story. Honeysuckle Creek is the main radio telescope that did most of the stuff, and Parkes was the assist. So they just sort of flipped the script a little bit. And it's a big deal down in Australia because this was considered in 1999 one of the best. It was one of the highest grossing pictures of all time in Australian history. Because, and for good reason, because if you want to get past the Honeysuckle Creek controversy and just watch a fun movie that's only about an hour and 35 minutes long, so it's a real quick boom, bang, done. It's fun. It's historical. It's funny. It's got great characters. My friend Gary mentions, because I got him hooked on it, he said there's not one character in that movie that you hate. Every character in that movie is likable in some form or another, and it basically follows not only the guys who worked in the Parks radio telescope, but also the small town of Parks, which is all of a sudden thrust into the spotlight, and the unique characters, sort of like a Northern Exposure type, with the unique characters that live in that town, and you get little stories about the stuff in town, equal to what's going on out at the radio telescope. It stars Sam Neill, who played Alan Grant from Jurassic Park and has been in a bunch of other American movies, but he's also one of Australia's biggest actors. He's now sort of retired from acting. He's now a winery guy, runs a winery in Australia. It also stars Patrick Warburton. For those who watch Seinfeld, he was the one who played Putty. And then it has a bunch of famous Australian actors, including Roy Billing as another big Australian actor who's in it as well. But again, there's like 3 curse words in the whole movie, including the F word. But it is PG-13, so you're allowed 1 F word in it. But there is like absolutely nothing wrong with the film. There is no sex. There is no violence. There is no killing. All it is watching groups of people who like working together and are good at their job being thrust into one of the biggest scientific events in history, and how they're reacting to it, and the small town with all the people in there who are, have their various quirks and storylines, and makes the film extraordinarily interesting. It is really funny, and it is sweet, and all the characters, to me, seem very realistic. And they all have distinct personalities, so you can tell them difference from each other. It's a really good film, highly recommended. It might be hard to find. I don't think it's on any streaming services. My recommendation is maybe going to Amazon and typing in The Dish DVD and maybe picking up the DVD. It's worth it. It probably won't cost that much. And I wanted to come out on Blu-ray because I want a better copy of it. But it's not going to, because it's one of those movies that no one knows about. And more people should, because it is an absolutely fun, great, entertaining film. It's one of those films that, as I said, it's only about an hour, 30 minutes, hour, 35 minutes, where you can just, if you need to kill some time, you're not feeling good, like I wasn't this week, I wasn't feeling that good, just to rest and relax. I've seen the movie so many times that when I get sick and I stay home from work, I put it in the DVD player and I lay down on the sofa and I watch the movie. Sometimes I sleep through parts of it. Sometimes I watch the whole thing, depending on how I feel when I watch it. I do it a lot. I try to watch it more than once during the year. But I always try to watch it around this time of year because it is the moon landing. It all focuses on the leading up to the moon landing and the actual moon landing, and it ends with the moon landing, and what happens just afterwards is real quick. So a great film mixed with some historical documentation and old TV. You see Walter Cronkite, and you see actual newscasts from that era get played during the movie. Some of that's kind of funny also, particularly when they try to tell things aren't to scale, and it's really funny. And the music is very late 60s type of music. You probably know most of the songs. A good example is Magic Carpet Ride plays a big role in the film. So Good Morning Starshine, Classical Gas are all songs that play a big role in the film. So highly recommend The Dish. Now, that's not the movie that, it is my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies, but it's not the one that I teased at the beginning of the movie. That's at the beginning of the show. That's a different one. But yeah, 49th anniversary of the moon landing. Morons. The moon landing is real. It was not faked. It has been proven time and time again. All the stuff that you think was fake actually can happen on the moon. And of all things, if you want more proof, there is a telescope on Earth that you can go to them and say, hey, can you hit a laser at the location of, or can you shoot a laser from Tranquility Base back to Earth? And the only way they could do that is it was connected. And so he does, and it's connected the exact spot where the landing is. Satellites have flown over the moon and have taken pictures of the landing site, and it's still there. It is not a fake moon landing. Stanley Kubrick had nothing to do with faking the moon landing. If you're going to believe that stuff, you can believe it all you want. It's not true. It's been debunked beyond belief. We landed on the moon 49 years ago yesterday. So, actually, it's funny considering today's the 21st of July. Because of the way the time zones are, the moon landing actually was July 21st in Australia. And you get that in the dish as well. So that's kind of funny. So the dish, Scott, I highly recommend it. I think you really like it. Anybody else out there who watches it or who is interested in it, definitely go get it. It's well worth buying. It really is. If you don't like it, I'll buy it back from you. But I highly recommend you pick it up and you just watch it. It's funny, it's sweet, it's not obtrusive. There's nobody you hate. Even the teenage girl is acting like a teenage girl. She's supposed to be kind of bitchy the way she is, and you can't hate that because that's what some girls, teenage girls, are like, particularly in the late 60s. So there's that. So good on that. Where did all that come from? I'm just trying to think. What else do we have here? I'm looking at all the stuff that was announced at San Diego, because that's probably basically everything else here. Oh, there's a new Starbucks store in Washington, D.C. that in order for you to work there, you have to know sign language. And they're also hiring deaf people who know sign language. It is your first sign language. I think it's sign language only Starbucks. I don't know if it's sign language only. I would assume probably because they want to hire deaf people as well to work, and they will not really be able to understand you unless you do ASL. I think it's a good idea. I've worked at, I didn't work there, but my company is a uniform company, and we sometimes get big projects, and I'm in charge of those big projects sometimes, but they're so big that we can't use our warehouse because our warehouse is too small to house the stuff that needs to go out there. So we've been renting a warehouse that, you know, it's running, it's its own business, but they have the room, they can accommodate us for about a month, however long it is that the project is. And this place is called Blind Industries, and the people there, not everybody, but the majority of them are blind. And this place is insane. It is one of the biggest warehouses I've ever seen. These blind people, they're sewing, they're cutting fabric, they're laying fabric, they're creating notepads, they are filling bottled water, they do other stuff as well. There's so much other stuff going on with there. It's also a place where if you've been newly blind and you need a place to rehab to get yourself used to being blind, they have setups of kitchens and bathrooms and bedrooms, stuff like that, to help you, get used to how things work. And there's also libraries that are done in Braille. You can come to visit if you just want to read for a little bit. They have a computer lab that you can use if you're blind. And I don't even know how that's even possible. But there is, I've seen it with my own eyes. There are computers, systems, whatever they have that help blind people able to see what's going on the net. And a lot of the people who I worked with were blind or were legally blind but could still see a little bit, and they would hold these little magnifying glasses up and they would look at the sheets of paper. I wanted them to pull stuff. And you want to know something? The project I worked on had about 8,000 pieces that needed to get sent out to the New York City Department of Education cafeteria things. Out of about 8,000 pieces, only about 20 were messed up, which means 7,980 other pieces pulled mostly by blind people were perfect. They can do whatever they want to. And the fact that Starbucks is embracing this and creating a place for deaf people to work, and you've probably seen these on Facebook and other places as well, kids and adults with Down syndrome. They've got coffee shops that aren't Starbucks, but are regular coffee shops that are run by people who have Down syndrome, have Down syndrome. There's a story out there on Facebook about a Down syndrome man who has created his own sock company and is now worth millions of dollars because of it. And it just goes to show you that a disability doesn't have to stop you from doing what you want to do. And good on companies giving people a chance to do this kind of stuff. This blind industries that I worked with is a huge place, and the majority of people in there are blind. And they're still doing a bang-up job. How do you even sew when you're blind? They're doing it, though, and they're doing a good job of it, too. It boggles my mind, but it also gives me faith in humanity in some form or another. So, speaking of which, this could be kind of scary. One of my favorite vacations I ever took was to Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Park. Now, you've all heard the story that Yellowstone National Park is basically on top of a super volcano. And the super volcano has not erupted in, I would say, millions of years, I think. But if you've ever been to Yellowstone, you know not only you have Old Faithful, which are hot water geysers, you have geysers there. Not just Old Faithful, there's other ones as well. You also have hot springs that stink of sulfur, and all kinds of other stuff leaking out of the earth. Recently, there have been multiple mini earthquakes in the Yellowstone area, which a lot of people are pretending means that something might be coming sooner than later. Particularly the fact that they think that a eruption at Yellowstone is imminent within about probably the next 10 to 20 years. And now a giant fissure, crack in the rock, has appeared in Grand Teton. Now that's, if you've ever up been that way, you land in Jackson Hole, which is a great little town. Jackson Hole is fantastic. It's a great little town. You land in Jackson Hole, and then you drive up to Grand Teton. Grand Teton is a giant national park. And then literally, you know, after you pass Grand Teton, you drive just a little bit further down, and Yellowstone is literally right next to it. And you have Yellowstone. A giant fissure, crack, whatever you want to call it, has appeared around Yellowstone in the Grand Teton area. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's getting ready to erupt anytime soon, because the supervolcano is technically Yellowstone proper. This is at Grand Teton, which is off to the side. But the fact that a fissure has appeared and is getting bigger could be a sign that more stuff can be cracking down the line. This could just be the beginning, you know, the first cracks in the ice. You know, when you step on thin ice and it starts to crack underneath your foot. It's like the first one. It might not be the one that's going to cause the big explosion or the big splash. That one might be down a mile or so away, or it might be a few feet away if you're using the ice analogy. In this case, it could be 30 some miles away in Yellowstone, and it could just be the first fissure of a bunch that are going to start cracking up along the line where the volcano is going to erupt. Now, they've shown some pictures of what areas would be affected by this, and we would be affected by it. Our weather particularly would be. But we would not have as bad of, here, I'm sorry, I shouldn't use that. Those of us on the East Coast, I think you are, Scott, and myself, we're not really going to be affected by the big aspect of it. The volcano explosion is going to take out a bunch of Wyoming, Montana, aspects of Grand Teton as well as Yellowstone, maybe even up into a little bit into Canada a little bit, we'll see. And then the exterior line where the ash clouds and stuff like that are going to cause some massive problems also spreads out a little bit like closer to the Illinois, Indiana area down to like the Mississippi, maybe not Mississippi, that might be a little too far south, but that general Central America, Midwest aspect of it. They're going to get affected by it most. Now, here on the East Coast, we're not going to be affected by it directly. We're going to be affected by the fact that it's going to kick up enough dust and ash and stuff in the sky that it's going to cool temperatures on our surface for a little bit. Some say almost a year. It's almost like a nuclear winter type of thing where the fallout would cause basically a year-round cold spell. Beginning news ice age, whatever you want to call it. Again, that's worst case scenario. And again, volcanoes are fairly unpredictable. You don't know when one is going to erupt. You can get an idea if there's starting to be some sort of motion. But here's another movie analogy. Go see Dante's Peak, one of my favorite volcano movies. Again, not the one I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. But it's, Dante's Peak and Volcano came out the same year. Volcano is more of the action adventure film with Tommy Lee Jones and Anne Heche about a volcano that erupts in Los Angeles. I guess is a possibility. The Brea tar pit, stuff like that. It seemed to be a bit more of a action type of thing. Dante's Peak was more of a realistic thing. It would be almost as if the town of St. Helens, by Mount St. Helens, how it was reacted to by the eruption of Mount St. Helens. Now, Pierce Brosnan, who's in the movie, plays a volcanologist who studies this kind of stuff. And he said that there are some times where, a place is showing all the signs that a volcano is going to erupt imminently. And so they get all the precautions out, and the town loses money or loses people living there because they're afraid of what's going to happen. And then nothing happens. And then there are other times where very little is happening. So they're not worried about it. And all of a sudden it blows up and destroys the city. Volcanoes are unpredictable. Mother Earth, unpredictable. Weather's unpredictable. All this stuff is unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. So they say it's due to crack in the next 10. They think it's going to crack in the next 10 to 20 years. Could be the next 100 years. But they're saying they're starting to notice a lot more action in that general area of things occurring, which usually is a sign that it's clearing her throat, as they say also in Dante's Peak. At any time, it could be the beginning of the end coming soon. But it could be the beginning of the end, but the end isn't for 10 to 100 years. So nothing to be really afraid of, I guess, right now. Particularly us, since we wouldn't really be affected that much. Sexy Jeff Goldblum. Never thought I'd be saying those words, but is a meme now. From Jurassic Park, the scene where he is leaning up and he's got his shirt unbuttoned and he's got his bare skin showing and stuff like that. It is a popular Funko Pop, Target exclusive, really, that if you tried to buy it on Amazon, it's like $75 to buy. And I haven't seen it at Target. It's supposed to be a Target exclusive, and it's not even there. And it's been a meme also. But now they've taken it one step further, where there's actually a statue of sexy Jeff Goldblum has been erected in England. I don't have anything else to say about that. I've got one more story to talk about, and then we're going to dive into the San Diego stuff, because that's going to be the majority of my episode. And this is actually kind of an interesting story. A woman gives birth to a baby girl in a Chick-fil-A bathroom. The owners of Chick-fil-A, as a proxy to the people who work at that Chick-fil-A, are going to give this baby girl who was born on their premises free chicken for life and will also give her a job when she's old enough. And I think that's kind of cool. Despite what you may think about Chick-fil-A, I think that's a cool story. Scott Trumman says, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of sexy Jeff Goldblum. I've never wanted to see sexy Jeff Goldblum, Scott. So yes, I'm sick of it myself too. But it's a big thing. It's popular. So I think that's a really cool story. This baby girl who just happened to come out in a Chick-fil-A bathroom is going to get free chicken for life and a job when she gets old enough. I think that's really cool. I wish more people would do that. But to be fair, how many restaurants or fast food joints have babies born in them that aren't abandoned, but were born in them and are able to be given this kind of stuff? Not many. So we're going to do, oh, no, we do have one more thing. Zapdos Day. Pokemon Go is our Pokemon Go discussion. Those who've watched the show before, Scott, I know you know about this, but just bear with me. My wife and I and our kids actually are Pokemon Go fans. And today was Zapdos Day. It's a long, complicated, I'll try to explain it. This summer, there are 3 major Pokemon Go events, none in our area. There was one in Chicago, Pokemon Go Fest, last Saturday, I think. 2 weeks before that was a Safari Zone in Germany, which is where they release every kind of Pokemon for a period of time. You can pick any type you want. Pokemon Go Fest had a bunch of Pokemon you hadn't seen before released in the wild, and also began the Celebi story, which is the next big event that we're going to be dealing with probably within the next week or so. Mew was the first one. Now Celebi is the second one. It's a mythical Pokemon that you can only get through a series of tasks that you have to do. And then there's another one, I think a Safari Zone in Japan at the end of the month or beginning of August. I think it might be beginning of August. Now, in order for those of us who cannot attend any of these, obviously we can't go to the Japanese or German ones because we're in America. And if you're not going out to Chicago, you don't live in the Chicago area, you don't want to go out to Chicago to do Pokemon Go Fest, you're sort of stuck here. So in order to make it interesting for those on the days of those events, Niantic, who runs Pokemon Go, is giving everybody a task. So everybody in Asia and like Europe, you have to catch or you have to perform like 1,000 research tasks in a all-day span. The Americas, South America, North America, Canada, whatever, you have to do 1,000 of a different research task. And then there's another place you have to do another 1,000 of a research task. Oh, and then the place itself has got to do, like the Safari Zone or the Pokemon Go Fest, they have to do a certain amount of things as well. If you do all that stuff, you will unlock special things for Pokemon Go that are the week after that. In this case, you get double candies for every catch you make. You get a special candy every time you do a raid, and your egg walking times have been drastically cut in half. We did all that, and so your reward for the whole world doing that is you get to do an encounter day with a legendary. 2 weeks ago, it was Articuno. Today was Zapdos, which is the electric bird. Every gym in the world for 3 hours was just Zapdos raid. So you could go and hit as many as you want and catch as many as you want and hopefully try to get a shiny, which is a different color variation of the Pokemon. So we do something called the raid train, where we have a group that we raid with here in the Reisterstown, Owings Mills area. And the raid train is, we hit 17 gyms today. We have about probably 20 in our area within driving distance of the length of Reisterstown, Glendon, Owings Mills area. And there's probably a few others you can add to it if you want to increase more. But my point is there's a bunch of gyms out there. So we all gather at one gym When the event starts, we go in, and then we follow a set pattern. We go from this gym to this gym to this gym to this gym to this gym, and then we have it set to specific times. Okay, we're going to start the raid at this time, which gives you 5 to 10 minutes travel time to each one. So you get in cars and you drive and you do and you go in, you do your battle, and you move to the next one. It's very fast paced, and it's very quick, and it's fun. It gets a little tiring near the end, but it can be a lot of fun. So today was Zapdos Day. Now the problem with today's was it's been raining its balls off today. Those of you on the East Coast probably know there's some sort of mass. I don't know if it affects you guys down too far south, but the mid-Atlantic area is being inundated with a giant rainstorm. When I started the show about an hour ago, the rain was coming down lightly, but it's supposed to repower up and strike through till about 3 a.m. It's supposed to stop from 3 a.m. to about 11 a.m. and it's going to start up again tomorrow. Basically, the next 10 days you're going to have a chance of rain every day. So it's going to be one of those things. I like the rain. I don't hate it. I'm just a little bit worried because my kids are at camp and they've got stuff for them to do. And I know they prefer to be outside doing this stuff, but I don't mind it. And then there's also morons who don't know how to drive in the rain. But this Zapdos event was a little bit more hectic because no one wanted to get out of their cars because it was pouring down rain. There were a few times you had to just because of the locations of the gym, and you found cover best you could. So, and did what you could. But when we did Articuno a couple weeks ago, it was hot as balls. But at least you could get outside of your car and you can walk around and you can meet up, and it was a lot easier. So we'll see what happens. In 2 weeks, they're going to do the Japanese Safari Zone, and then there's going to be more event things we have to do. And if we do that, we'll probably unlock Moltres, which is the last of the legendary birds, and they'll do another Moltres raid train for a 3-hour period. So we'll see what happens. So that's what's going on. So after that, we have a new raid boss in Reggie Steele, and we have some new raid bosses for the next month or so that they rotate in and out. So raid bosses are Pokemon, special Pokemon that you really can't catch in the wild that take over one of the gyms, and you fight them, and you have an hour to fight them. Get a group together and take them down because you can't usually take them down by yourself. So that is everything. Oh yeah, I do have my movie before I did the San Diego thing. Do I want to talk about my movie now? No, let's do the San Diego stuff, and then I'll probably wrap up the show with my movie review, and then my usual stuff: In Dreams, Chill Check Eye Day, and my movies that came out this week. So San Diego Comic-Con, our good friend Snarkalica Heather and I always forget her name, Con Sweet Con. Are out there right now along with Myrtlelotta. They are out there right now enjoying the San Diego adventures. I'm living vicariously through their pictures and also from all the news that's being released. And it's not really Comic-Con anymore, really. It's more of a pop culture convention, so they release a whole bunch of news from different stuff that's not always going to be comic book related. Nicole's Con Sweet Con's name. So some of the stuff that we learned, first up, we had there's going to be a Batwoman TV show on the CW. Batwoman is a lesbian superhero. She's also Bruce Wayne's cousin. And her father is a military guy, but she is, was trained by her military dad. I think her mom died, and so she was raised by a single dad who's a military guy, so he trained her up on how to be athletic and taught her how to use weapons and stuff like that, and she's really smart, and she's a lesbian, and she's also Bruce Wayne's cousin. So they have a contentious relationship because Batwoman is not as, I wouldn't say soft on crime like Batman is, but Batwoman will do what she needs to do. She's basically a military bat person. She follows the rules of military conduct. If you need to kill someone, you got to do it. I mean, let's face facts. Captain America is a superhero, but he kills people. He's a soldier. That's what soldiers do. They're there to kill people. They'll try not to, but if they have no other choice, they will kill. So Batwoman's kind of like that. So Batwoman and Batman sort of have a contentious relationship, but the thing is, and you got to look at it from this aspect, this is like one of Bruce's only real family members. It's a cousin. So he has family. He's lost his mom and dad, obviously. But he needs to spend more time with his cousin because she is family, and he does have family. And she is a member of his team as well. So they do spend time that way. But sometimes you need to spend it as Bruce Wayne and Katie Kane. So there's that. Speaking of CW TV shows, Sam Witwer, who was on the sci-fi version of Being Human. It has been Battlestar Galactica, I think he was in that, the new update of that. He's also does the voice of Darth Maul in the Clone Wars cartoon, and he's done a whole bunch of. He was in the first episode of Walking Dead also. He is joining the cast of Supergirl on the CW as a DC superhero character by the name of Agent Liberty. That's actually pretty good casting in that case. So we'll see more about him in a little bit. Let's see. Trailer. Okay, this isn't really... Well, no, that is a trailer. Tom King, who is the writer of Batman, and Mr. Miracle is another one he's been writing. He's been doing a really, really great job of writing Batman. I found Batman to be entertaining, and his story arcs, I should say, have been great. And it's led to issue 50, where Batman and Catwoman were supposed to get married. Spoiler alert for those who haven't read it yet. Spoiler alert, but I'm going to tell you right now. Obviously, Batman and Catwoman did not get married. She left him at the altar. But Tom King has said, that this is a 100-issue love story, and so he's got 50 more issues to see where this is going to lead to. But to me, I've always enjoyed the Batman-Catwoman relationship. I thought it was fantastic, particularly the way Tom King was writing it. They seemed absolutely perfect for each other, and was disappointed, as everyone else was, that they did not end up getting married. Apparently, there are people out there who got really, really upset about it, and they have threatened to kill him. Now, this isn't the first time that fanatics, that's what fans are, basically. It's a shortened version of fanatics. And it's just been recently where things have gotten a lot worse. We talked about the Last Jedi fanatics from a few weeks ago who hated the movie so much that they want to remake it, or they want it stricken from Star Wars canon. And then you have lost my train of thought there for a second. Where am I again? Oh, okay. But then there are the people who have been threatening to kill other actors and stuff like that because they didn't like their reactions. Well, in this case, people have threatened to kill Tom King, the fact that he didn't get Batman and Catwoman married. So during his trip in San Diego, he has a bodyguard. Now, that in and of itself is kind of a messed up story, but Tom King has made it kind of fun. He's been posting pictures on his Instagram all week from San Diego with him and his bodyguard just doing goofy things, like looking at toys and taking boat rides and going out to dinner and stuff like that. And it's just been, he's kind of making a joke about the fact that he has to have a bodyguard to protect him from somebody who might try to kill him. Which to me just absolutely boggles my mind why someone would kill somebody over that. But I know it happens. So, but it's just fun if you can check out his Instagram or his Twitter handle and just see some of the stuff he's posted. It's actually very, very cute and very clever. I guess the big story out of San Diego, which kind of pisses me off a little bit, is the fact that James Gunn, director of Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and has written Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the script for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which would be the last one he was going to do, has been fired from directing Guardians of the Galaxy 3 by Disney due to a conservative website digging up an old Twitter tweet that he posted back in 2009 about rape and pedophilia, and Disney found that they had to fire him because of those comments. Now, here's a few things about that. One, these tweets appeared back in 2012 when, as I recall, Disney still owned the rights to Marvel when James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy first came out. And he has gone on record as apologizing for the tweets and saying that it was a time in 2009 where he was trying to be a provocateur, and he apologized profusely. Every time he was doing press for Guardians of the Galaxy, he would apologize for these tweets if people brought him up and asked him questions about it. So, Disney had no problem with him doing it in 2012 and 2015 when Guardians of the Galaxy 2 came out, 2016, whatever it was, when Guardians of the Galaxy 2 came out. Second, the conservative who released the tweet has written a lot more offensive tweets about date rape not being real and other stuff as well, and he has not apologized for that. So, and then I think the whole thing with, the conservatives repent, well, you fired Roseanne for her racial comments. Why shouldn't you fire him? Because James Gunn has been a notorious anti-Trumper. And, well, Roseanne, who's pro-Trump, you fired her because of a racist tweet. You need to fire him because of this stuff. Well, here's the thing about Roseanne. She never apologized for what she said. She's gone on, and she's also been tweeting stuff for years that's been provocative as well, and no one has ever batted an eye until finally people had enough and they forced the hand and got fired. So a lot of people are thinking this is a retaliation for that. They think the one conservative person on the board of Disney said we got to do this, and he was able to sway them to do this. James Gunn, being the professional that he is, he takes the criticism in hand and says, I understand your decision and I'm okay with it, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, it should not have happened because he's already apologized for it. It's already been covered. Disney has already talked to him about it. He's already done his apology tour. And then in turn, Roseanne, who was supposed to do a apology tour, ends up just making things worse in a little racist tirade that she had on video that was released a couple days ago. I'm just not enjoying the way the world is right now. And the fact is, James Gunn had a distinct voice for the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and it should be only right for him to finish the trilogy. Yes, he should not have ever written those tweets, but again, this was 9 years ago, and he's already apologized profusely for it over and over again, and Disney has already asked him about it 6 years ago, 2012-ish, when the first one came out, or 2013, whatever it was. He's already gone through the paddy wagon with that. And as I said, he's apologized. So Roseanne never did. So it was a case of, well, we did this for you guys, so you have to give us this one, which is total BS. And it's unfair. So we'll see what happens to Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Clone Wars is coming back after, I guess, they were sort of forced out after maybe the 5th season, but they were able to come back and do an Amazon-only or Netflix-only 6th season, I guess, where I guess they tried to wrap stuff up, but it was, they didn't like how it ended. So they were able to convince Disney, I guess, to let them finish one more season of Clone Wars to finish it up the way they wanted to. And I guess maybe even lead it into Rebels a little bit. So that's for fans of Clone Wars. It's a good day for you guys. That is coming back onto your television, your TV. I came into Doctor Who late. They were already on Smith, I think, when I was convinced to take a look at the new versions of Doctor Who, starting with the Ninth Doctor, Christopher Eccleston. So my wife and I, we watched the Ninth Doctor's only season, and we absolutely fell in love with Doctor Who. We watched Tennant's first 2 seasons as Doctor Who. So we've watched 3 full seasons of Doctor Who, and we've watched the first couple episodes of the 3rd season, and then life came around, and we haven't had a chance to watch it again. So we haven't followed the rest of Tennant's career, any of Matt Smith's career, or any Peter Capaldi's career. But that doesn't really matter, because this October is when we are going to get season 11 of Doctor Who, which introduces the 13th Doctor, who is a female Doctor. It's a brand new showrunner, brand new writers, brand new cast. Basically, it's the beginning of it's like a new era. And they are trying to get people to come in and watch this season, even if you haven't seen any of the previous seasons. They're setting it up so that it's sort of like an introductory season to reintroduce you to the character. Because it is a new showrunner, and he's going to have his own direction that he wants to go into. So he might touch upon some of the stuff that happened in the previous seasons, particularly because the Doctor's the same person, just in a different body. He's got all their memories. So we're going to try to start watching it again live when it comes out in October. We want to try to get our kids involved with it, because they've shown a little bit of interest in Doctor Who. But with it being a female Doctor, and also being like sort of a reboot for all intents and purposes, we think it's going to be the best time to that. We'll get them to watch the 9, 10, 11, and 12 as well. But this way we can stick with the crowd and watch it when it comes live. So they released the first trailer for Doctor Who Season 11, where you get to see the Doctor in action and her new companions in action as well, and get to see a general idea of what the series looks like. And it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I think Jodie Whittaker is going to be a fabulous Doctor, and it's interesting to see the dynamics of the 3 companions, where usually it's been 1 to 2. Scott Trump says, I cannot wait for it. I love the trailer they released the other day. Yep, exactly. So Scott Troutman's all in on that as well. So we're good on that. Definitely worth your while. All this stuff from San Diego that I'm talking about now, you can access through Facebook or Twitter. Just sort of, I guess on Twitter, the hashtag San Diego Comic-Con, and it'll probably show up all the news. Facebook is probably the best place for it, because you'll be able to see all the stuff that they've dropped, particularly if you're following like comic book websites and stuff like that, which you're probably not. But there are other websites that are releasing things as well. So that's how I'm able to get most of this stuff. I guess we'll hit some of the trailers now. The first trailer I remember seeing after the Doctor Who one was the trailer for the new Titans TV show. I'm not going to pay a big amount of money for DC streaming service to watch that show. I, for one, found it to be a convoluted mess. The fact that it looks like the characters are not quite exactly where they're supposed to be, particularly the Dick Grayson Robin, who has now said, almost after 10 o'clock so I can say it, in the famous line from the trailer, which is now being talked about all over the internet, "Fuck Batman." First of all, Dick Grayson would never say "fuck Batman." That would be Jason Todd. Secondly, it looks like Dick is a relentless fighter, possibly could be killing bad guys. Again, Jason Todd-ish. But it's Dick Grayson because you see flashbacks to the Flying Graysons and stuff like that. The costume looks good, but the character appears to be more Jason Todd than Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson is a happy-go-lucky, fun, I forgot to write down that stuff. Happy-go-lucky type of character who enjoys doing what he's doing while beating up bad guys. He's not dark and broody like Batman is, and like this Robin appears to be. I am not a fan of Starfire, not because she's black, but because I just don't like the costumes and the hair that they have her have, it just doesn't look good. I'm not the biggest fan of what Beast Boy looks like. I guess it's okay, but again, there's something off about it. Raven seems to be okay, but again, there seems to be something off about it, and you've only got to see a little bit of Dove. Dove and Hawk and Dove actually look really, really good. They didn't show any Hawk that I could see, but they showed Dove fighting, and she looks good in the costume, and she looks like what Dove might be, though, as I said, it was just a brief appearance in the trailer, so I couldn't tell you. So on a scale of what I saw in that trailer, I'm probably going to take a hard pass on this Titans show, and I'm probably not going to really watch it. I might read the Wikipedia episode descriptions, but that's about it. Shoot, I forgot to copy this down. I'll figure it out eventually. The Walking Dead trailer for the 9th season, which has turned out to be, is going to be Andrew Lincoln's last season. Looks interesting. They're taking a different look on it. They seem to be doing the Brave New World storyline where, you know, it's a few years after the events of the war with Negan, and everything seems to be working out okay, but they appear to be having more problems than they did in the comics. The comics had the communities working a lot better together, even so going so far as to team up with each other to take on a new bad guy. In this case, it looks like that there's still going to be some underlying hatred amongst the different towns. I guess that's you've already deviated enough from the comics now where you can write whatever the hell you want to now, to be honest. I'm probably not going to be watching this season of Walking Dead because I'm not liking the direction it went in. I liked the better idea when they were sticking pretty much to the comic idea. I mean, they still seem to be trying to do that, but not in a great way, to be honest. And also to me, and that's Negan he's talking to in the jail cell. You guys, he's all in shadow, and they didn't really do a big reveal, but that's Negan who they're talking to. If you didn't know that, that's who it is. And Negan seems to be out of character also because after the events of the war, he's turned over a new leaf and he's trying to be a better person. This Negan that Rick is talking to seems to be more like the old Negan, kind of dickish, douchebaggy type of thing. So we'll see what it's got right now. I'm betting this will be the last season of The Walking Dead. I couldn't even make it through all of last season. Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, with Andrew Lincoln leaving and Maggie leaving, we'll see. I think they would probably push it to one more season, probably. We'll have to wait and see what the ratings are like. So we'll see. But all in all, I mean, the Walking Dead trailer was the Walking Dead trailer. It was okay. But it didn't get me excited for the new season. It just didn't. This movie, though, trailer actually did get me excited for it. M. Night Shyamalan burst onto the scene with a movie called The Sixth Sense. Great twist ending, great movie. Made M. Night a huge star overnight. His next film, Unbreakable, didn't do as well as the box office as Sixth Sense did, but it still did enough. And there are enough fans of Unbreakable that he was able to continue on. I happen to be a fan of Unbreakable. If you've never seen Unbreakable, Bruce Willis, who starred with him in Sixth Sense, returns in this one as a guy who survives a train crash. And he's like a night watchman or a cleaner, janitor, or something like that. And he's trying to live his life as he usually does, even after this train wreck where he was the only survivor and it killed like 200 some people and he survived. However, he's approached by a guy named Mr. Glass, played by Samuel L. Jackson, who has a bone disease, which makes his bones very brittle. So he has to be in a wheelchair or walk with a cane. And he's broken his bones numerous times because they are so fragile and so brittle. He also owns a comic book store and happens to be a huge comic book geek. And he and Bruce Willis' character strike up a friendship. And Mr. Glass seems to know that there seems to be more to him than meets the eye, because he's done some research on Bruce Willis's character and discovered that he has survived many other, never gotten sick, survived other things as well. And so this Mr. Glass truly believes that Bruce Willis is an invulnerable superhero and tries to go about to prove that he is. I'm not going to reveal any more because I don't want to spoil the movie, because it is part of the fun of it is watching what happens in the film. And it is, it's a great film, and it's a lot different than The Sixth Sense. So after that, he did Signs, which is still one of my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movies. And for anybody who has issues with the ending about why, if the aliens are get hurt by water, why do they go to a planet that is 98% water? Well, if you watch the movie, the reaction of the alien when the water hits him and it burns him is one of shock, like, what the hell just happened? What is going on? He didn't know that earth water harmed him. And I will stick with that interpretation till the end. And that made it a ton of money. And then The Village made a lot of money. But then he started getting above himself and started calling himself the greatest director of all time, and started to get a little, too big for his britches. And then he had a bunch of failures: Lady in the Water, Avatar, The Last Airbender, the one about the plants that killed people. And so he sort of got brought down to earth again. So he sort of took a sabbatical for a while, and then came back with a found footage film about two kids who went to their grandparents' house. And that one has a twist ending. And that made a lot of money, and said, M. Night seems to be back. M. Night luckily sort of chilled a little bit. And then he made a movie called Split. Spoilers coming up with this one as well. Split is a story about a multiple personality guy who has at least 70 some personalities, one of which appears to have some sort of supernatural power. And we meet this person. Now, spoiler alert, we discover at the end of the movie that this movie takes place in the same universe as Unbreakable, because Bruce Willis's Unbreakable character makes a cameo role at the end of Split. So that led to M. Night finally saying, I've been trying to do this for a long time, and now it's come to fruition. He's making a sequel to Unbreakable. It's called Glass. Yes, that means Samuel L. Jackson's character is back. And this character from Split is going to be in it as well, as is Bruce Willis's character. Watching the trailer, again, has some spoilers to the endings of Split and Unbreakable. So if you haven't seen those movies yet, you might want to avoid the trailer. But I saw the trailer for Glass, and I'm excited, and it might be the first M. Night movie that I see in the movie theater since Signs. I haven't seen any of his other films since Signs in the movie theater. I saw The Village on DVD, and I liked The Village, but I haven't seen any of his other ones. And I saw Avatar: The Last Airbender, and that's just awful. So definitely, if you've seen Unbreakable, and not necessarily if you haven't seen Split, it's still okay. But if you haven't seen Unbreakable yet, don't watch this trailer. If you have watched the trailer, you'll enjoy it. I think you'll really, really like it. Speaking of superhero trailers, 2 more got dropped today. The Shazam movie actually looks like it could be another hit for DC. They actually seem to have gotten the spirit of the character and gotten out of the grim and gritty and dirt and dark aspect that their film universe has had because of that. And they're using a character that isn't as well known as a Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman in a movie as well. So they finally seem to be getting onto the Marvel formula. And this one stars Zachary Levi as the character. Now, for those who don't know who Shazam is, there's a 13-year-old boy who gets chosen by a wizard named Shazam to be imbued with his powers when he says his name. So when the 13-year-old says Shazam, he turns into basically like a Superman, a older man. So he's a 13-year-old who gets turned into like a Superman who's like in his 30s and still has the mindset of a 13-year-old. and he goes about to learn his powers. So that movie's coming out next year, and they released the first trailer that it looks a lot of fun. It looks like they've got the idea of the character down, and I'm actually anticipating that film, and I may actually see that in the movie theater because it actually looks like that they might have actually gotten it right. That leads us to the Aquaman trailer. Aquaman comes out in December. I have never been a big fan of the casting of Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I like Jason Momoa as an actor. I thought he would have killed it as the Crow, but they are no longer doing that as well. See my episode a few weeks ago about the Crow curse. His appearance in Justice League, I haven't seen it, from what I've seen and heard, and my friend MJ, who did see it, and he told me about it, is not Aquaman. And now they have his own film, directed by James Wan. And I watched it, and you know what? I kind of dug it a little bit. Am I going to go see it in the movie theater? Probably not. But unlike some of the other DCU movies, I might actually get this one on DVD and might watch and enjoy it. So give it a whirl on its own. For the ladies, you see lots of topless Jason Momoa with his strong muscles and his tattoos that all the women love, and his just his features, stuff like that. You also see a little bit more of Amber Heard as Mara, who is a great character. You get a few shots of Black Manta. They look like they did that pretty good. To me, though, the storyline seems to be an awful lot like Black Panther, but it's reversed. There's a king who's running Atlantis, and they are going to try to attack the surface world because they think the surface world is trying to kill them. Aquaman, who is the rightful heir to the throne, comes to fight for the right to the throne. And then you have a character who's been there before and is coming back again in Black Manta. So you've got sort of a similar Black Panther story in this. I don't want that to color in me to be a sarcastic asshole about things because I'm not a big fan of Jason Momoa's character. And it's, on the surface, it's just similar storyline. But to me, it looks interesting, and we'll see if I actually decide I want to do that or not. I never saw the new reboot of Godzilla. But the second Godzilla movie is coming out next year. 11 from Stranger Things. Billy Ray Valentine or Billy Brown, whatever her name is, I don't know. Millie Brown, something or other, is starring in it, and it actually shows more monsters besides Godzilla. So this actually might be a pretty good film because they're trying to do their own monster world shared universe, because that includes Kong of Skull Island. And that had a Godzilla Easter egg in it as well. And supposedly the rumor is after Godzilla King of the Monsters, you're going to get King Kong versus Godzilla, which is going to be set in the same shared universe. So we'll see what happens. The trailer it was kind of a mess, but you get the general idea of the story. It's definitely an original idea. Basically, the Earth is suffering a problem, and the only thing that can help it are the monsters, and they discover all these monsters are like frozen or in chambers or whatever, waiting to be awoken, and if they awaken them, they will save the Earth. But it seems to be more complicated than that. So you get to see a bunch of different monsters. You get to see Godzilla. So it might actually be intriguing, and I'm sure by the time it comes out, I'll probably be able to see Godzilla and Kong of Skull Island. And maybe I'll go see it in the movie theater. Maybe not. I might wait for DVD. But it looks good. The fact that they're going to be releasing more of the giant monsters besides Godzilla in this one looks entertaining. And they actually have an interesting story idea that's fairly unique, considering that it's a Godzilla movie. So cheers on that. The final trailer I saw for this week, and again, there could still be some tomorrow. I was kind of hoping for a Captain Marvel trailer, but I guess they just finished. They haven't had a chance to cut a new trailer. I would assume you'll probably see that probably closer to Thanksgiving, because that seems to be the next big time that you're going to want to see something. Finally, we have the world of Harry Potter is coming back again for another movie. This time it's Fantastic Beasts 2, The Crimes of Grindelwald. Now, there's been a lot of controversy about this because it stars Johnny Depp in it. He plays the bad guy in it, and this was filmed after his abuse scandal to the aforementioned Amber Heard, who plays Mara in the Aquaman movie. So a lot of people are down on Johnny Depp and have been getting on J.K. Rowling for continuing to cast him in roles, even though he's an abusive son of a bitch. But from what I saw the trailer, he seems to be the perfect role for the bad guy. And you get to see Newt Scamander and his crew back from the first film back again. There's some neat-looking animals, and you get to see Jude Law as a young Dumbledore, which is really interesting as well. You get to see a little bit more of Hogwarts. Maybe some stuff in the past, particularly the one funny scene they showed from Newt's past is what his biggest fear is, and it's actually really funny. And that's revealed in the trailer as well. So I'll have to look at it again, but it just, and you get to see some of the other characters. Ezra Miller's character's back again. So obviously there's going to be a lot going on in this one. The Fantastic Beasts movies apparently are 5 films, and J.K. Rowling is writing them all. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. So we'll see what happens. It looks good. I liked the first one, and this one looks pretty good as well. So we will definitely check that out come November. I will see that with my family. Finally, some of the big news from San Diego, which I'm still kind of on, is a Buffy the Vampire Slayer reboot. Everybody knows my love for Sarah Michelle Gellar, and even Allison Hannigan somewhat, and even Seth Green somewhat, and Cordelia. I can't think of her name right now. Charisma Carpenter, Nick Brendan, Anthony Head. Great cast. Great show. Joss Whedon will be producing the reboot, even though he will not be writing or show running it. It's going to be written and show run by a woman who he's worked with on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's a reboot that's going to star younger Buffy and a black actress. Now, the rumors are now that it's not going to be that this young black woman is going to be Buffy. It's going to be one of the previous Slayers that made an appearance in the show a while back. They think it might be her experiences, but that would be a little bit of a problematic because it would be set in the 80s. And I don't know if you want to set a TV show like that in the 80s. You might just want to do a reboot of a teenage girl who discovers she's a vampire killer and how her and her friends stop, stuff like that. To me, you know, I'm not a big fan of the reboots or whatever because we've already seen it. If you're a different character, then that's fine. But you got to come up with some different stories than what they had in the original one so that you can differentiate between the original and the new rebooted one. Will I be watching it? Probably not. But it's still out there for people who enjoy it. All right, what do I got left to do? I've got my usual stuff I got to do, and let's talk about my new favorite movie real quick. I've been trying to get to watch this movie for a while, and believe it or not, it always comes into mind when I listen to a specific song. There's a movie called Waking Ned Divine, which I watch, as I mentioned earlier in the show. I like to watch movies around specific holidays and stuff like that. There's a movie called Waking Ned Divine, and the final scene has a great, it was St. Patrick's Day, has a great song in it, and there's a line in it which is the name of this movie, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. The song is called The Parting Glass, and one of the lyrics of the songs says, I've suffered the stuff, or I haven't really wasted my life. I've spent my life in good company. 2004 saw the release of a movie called In Good Company, starring Dennis Quaid, Topher Grace, and a very young 18-year-old Scarlett Johansson. It's directed by Chris Weitz, who, along with his brother Paul Weitz, wrote and directed the original American Pie movie. And also, they grew up, and I think Chris directed About a Boy with Hugh Grant, which made a lot of critical acclaim. And then they made this film about a boy, or not about a boy, In Good Company. And I'd heard some okay stuff about, but it's one of those movies that you don't really hear a lot about. But I had heard about it, and I always wanted to see it. I've read the description of it in Wikipedia, and I've watched the trailer for it a bunch of times. And then, as I said, and then it sort of dissipates out of my head. I don't think about it again. And then, for whatever reason, I'm listening to The Parting Glass again, and that line comes up, and all of a sudden, it's like a switch comes back on. It says In Good Company. And then I go back and I check out I reread the Wikipedia thing. I check the trailer out again. So it's a vicious cycle. So I decided to break that cycle. I said, I need to get a copy of it. So it's a movie that came out in 2004, wasn't very popular. It's not even on Blu-ray. So I checked Amazon first. Amazon, of course, had the DVD of it. I almost bought it, but I was like, well, I know Target and Walmart have DVDs where they combine like 3 movies in one. And I know I've seen one where In Good Company was part of this 3-movie set. So I knew it was like a Target, I think, but I decided, let me just check out Walmart and Target. So I checked out a couple of Walmarts, and I checked out a Target, and they didn't have the DVD. I even checked the grocery store because they have a section of DVDs that have all these 3 or 4 triple play movies or whatever, which has a bunch of movies all together on like 2 DVDs or something like that. It wasn't there either. So I was like, okay, I got one last place I want to look, and then if I can't find it here, I will order it from Amazon, and then I'll have to wait till I get some free time to see it. So I checked this place called FYE, which doesn't really exist as much anymore, but there's a store up in the mall up in Westminster, so it was a bit of a drive. So I went up there, and they had a used copy for $4. I said, yep. I grabbed it, paid for it, watched it. I'm so happy I did because In Good Company is now one of my new favorite movies. If you've not seen In Good Company yet, I highly recommend you do. It sort of makes me a little sad because Topher Grace showed a lot of range in this movie and the potential to be, could have been a really big star. And I don't know if his Venom killed that or it just was, do we really want to watch a movie with a guy from that 70s show in it? Which is a shame because Topher Grace does an excellent job in this film. He's ably backed by Dennis Quaid. And even young Scarlett Johansson's great. But you also got yourself a cast of cool character actors, including David Paymer, Frankie Faison, Malcolm McDowell. I don't remember who else was in that. The guy from Modern Family, not Ed O'Neill, and not any of the gay guys. The one who's married to the hot blonde, who's from Maryland, by the way. Forget his name. Who else is in it? John Cho has a cameo in it. Is there anyone else who's big? Philip Baker Hall is in it also. I feel like I'm missing someone big. Oh, Clark Gregg, who played Coulson from the MCU. He plays kind of the bad guy in this. He's really funny in it as well, to see sort of this bad guy Clark Gregg in it. So you have a pretty nice... Oh, and Marge Helgenberger plays Dennis Quaid's wife, and she's so hot in this one. She's really, really hot. Redheads are hot, too, and she's really hot in this one. But the basic premise of In Good Company is Dennis Quaid is a family man. He has 2 daughters. He and his wife are still in love with each other. They have a stable family life. They've been married for 20-plus years. They have a happy home life. Scarlett Johansson is his oldest daughter. She's 18. She was going to SUNY, which is some school in New York, but she decided she wanted to transfer to NYU because she's into creative writing, and they have a good creative writing group. She's also a tennis ace who's getting tired of being a tennis ace. Her younger sister is your consummate like 14-year-old teenager with braces and, you know, has boyfriends and stuff like that, and is your typical teenage girl. And he is, Dennis Quaid is a sales rep, advertising sales rep for a sports magazine. Well, he learns that the sports magazine has been taken over by a businessman played by Malcolm McDowell. And he is going to place, Clark Gregg is now going to be like the new big boss of the company. And Clark Gregg is bringing with him a young 26-year-old, Selma Blair's in it too, plays a young 26, is bringing a young hotshot 26-year-old business prodigy played by Topher Grace with him. And he's going to place Topher Grace in as the head of advertising, conceivably getting rid of Dennis Quaid and firing him. But Topher Grace's character becomes fond of Dennis Quaid and likes his stability and his he's been at the job for 36 years and is really good at his job, so he keeps him on as his second-hand man. It's a decrease in pay, obviously, and he's not the boss anymore, but he has to take the job because his daughter's now going to NYU, which is even more expensive than SUNY is. And then he learns that his 40-some-year-old gorgeous wife, Marge Helgenberger, is now pregnant with their third child, which was a total surprise to him since he's 52 years old and she's in her 40s, and they didn't think they could get pregnant, but voila, they are. So now he's got a baby on the way and a daughter in NYU. So he's got to keep the job. So he'll do what he can to help out Topher Grace's character. Now, Topher Grace, his character is a hotshot 26-year-old business guy who made his name by creating cell phones for children, making them dinosaurs, stuff like that, and they sold a lot for him. So he's a hotshot on his way up. He has just gotten married. He's been married for 7 months to his girlfriend, who's now his wife. After 7 months of marriage, his wife, played by Selma Blair, decides to leave him. And he can't handle that because he didn't have the best home life, and he's just looking for a stable home life. He wants to have a life and a family and kids, but his wife apparently doesn't want to have kids, and that sort of, he thought she was joking when she said that. So he starts going to kind of a downward spiral a little bit, and then gleams himself onto Dennis Quaid's family and looks at how his family life is so perfect, and he wants something like that. He also strikes up a flirtation with Scarlett Johansson, Dennis Quaid's daughter. That flirtation turns into full-on dating in secret because they don't want to reveal to Dennis Quaid that they're seeing each other, and yes, they're sleeping with each other. Now, that in and of itself is kind of a weird thing, an 8-year age difference, but you know what? It works for this film. And then, you know, things go on from there, and, you know, the whole thing is Dennis Quaid going to find out and what's going to happen, and now they're going to have to start laying off all these people because they're not doing what they're supposed to do, and Dennis Quaid doesn't want to do that because these are all his friends and people he's worked with, and he's trying to land a big client, and he's worried that, you know, if he loses his job, he's not going to be able to afford to pay for the new baby and for his daughter to be at NYU. So it's all this stuff coming together. Now, what makes this movie so great is Chris Weiss directs it in such a really good way that the buzzword that Topher Grace's character uses is synergy. Now, we all know what synergy is. If you don't know what synergy is, it's when you combine stuff together to work together to form one big team. Basically saying, like in a magazine, what we can do is one of our other accounts is a cereal box. Why don't we put sports statistics that you get from our sports magazine onto the cereal boxes, so now the people who read the magazine can now buy the cereal also and get sports tidbits on their cereal as well. You know, that's sort of like the idea of synergy. And what's interesting about that is the way Chris Weiss directs the movie is he shows the synergy. He goes from a shot of, a good example would be like, say, Topher Grace, you know, looking at a quarter, putting a quarter on his desk, and then it cuts to a shot of Dennis Quaid picking up a quarter off his desk to put into a parking meter, type of thing. It's the scenes mirror each other. Topher Grace going to bed by himself after his wife leaves him, as opposed to Dennis Quaid going to bed with his loving hot wife next to him. Dennis Quaid taking a cab to an airport to fly out to Los Angeles to talk to a client, and next has Topher Grace driving his car into a parking garage into the building. So it's a lot of similar mirror image things, which adds a really nice effect to the movie. Now, it's not done through the whole movie, but it's done at specific points to make a point. It's also got a really nice independent music score with a lot of different songs you would not expect to hear, including a Salisbury Hill, which is a great old song, and some other stuff as well that connect with stuff. It's just, it is, and it doesn't quite end exactly how you think it will, which is also kind of entertaining as well. Is it a happy ending? You can make the case for that, but there are certain things that happen at that ending which on the surface don't look like it's a happy ending, but in actuality it's probably the better ending for it. So it's kind of a slow moving movie, but it's got some comedy aspects to it. It's got fantastic acting. And again, as I said, Topher Grace just amazes me about how great he is in this movie. Dennis Quaid is a pro, so I wasn't even concerned about him because he's a pro. He's already a great actor, and he just shows it more and more. Marge Helgenberger, while being hot, has very little to do, which is a shame. David Paymer does his job as a nice co-starring role, not overwhelmingly, but an interesting character nonetheless. Frankie Faison's in it for a very small amount of time, but he's still in it pretty good. I said John Cho just has a cameo, which is kind of interesting. Malcolm McDowell's role is more of a cameo also, but he's Malcolm McDowell, so he actually is exactly how you expect him to be. But this film is Dennis and Topher's. And Scarlett's in there somewhat too. It's interesting to see Scarlett at the age of 18, the way she is now, compared to the way she is now as Black Widow. And it's just kind of an interesting take on things. So it's about an 8-year difference between when she did In Good Company and when she did The Avengers. So a lot changed for her in 8 years. But again, Scarlett does a really good job, and her character's arc with falling in love, well, not really falling in love, but I mean, dating Topher Grace's character makes a lot of sense for a girl out on her own for the first time, not knowing a lot of people, and meeting a guy who is cute, looks young, funny, and also has this thing where only around her he is absolutely straightforward and truthful about anything. She asks a question, he will answer it truthfully, and he's like, I can't believe that he can't believe that he answered the question exactly what he was thinking. Whereas instead of as a businessman, he's got to maneuver around so that he doesn't actually reveal his true feelings. But whenever he's with her, it opens up. But it's Topher's movie. Again, as I said, Dennis Quaid plays a huge role in the film, and he's got his own story arc going on. But the actual character that changes the most and has probably the most interesting arc going on is Topher Grace's character. Again, nothing to badmouth Dennis Quaid on. He does a fantastic job as always, and his story arc is okay also, but it's sort of maintained. He doesn't really change all that much. He is who he is. He's Dennis Quaid. His character is pretty much the same at the beginning of the film as it is at the end. He's got a little bit of change in him because he's had to undergo some stuff, and then his attitude towards Topher Grace changes during the movie as well. But Topher's story is the arc of the movie, and it's the most interesting portrayal of a character that looks like he's on a path at the beginning of the movie, and by the end of it, he doesn't even look the same. And Topher Grace pulls it off amazingly, and it is a shame that he is not a bigger star because he really does a good job. And I wish people would give him maybe another chance. It's been 14 years since the movie came out, and things are a lot different now, obviously. But in 2004, Topher Grace showed signs of being a fantastic actor, and it's hard to say if Spider-Man 3 derailed that, or it was just the way it was meant to be. I don't even know what else Topher Grace has done after In Good Company, or even after Spider-Man 3. I don't really know what else he's done. So I don't know if he's sort of settled into a co-starring role, sort of similar, like a journeyman type of thing, like Dennis Quaid actually is. Now, Dennis Quaid can be a lead actor, but he does his best when he's part of the ensemble, much like he is in Good Company. Now, it is a story of Topher and Dennis, and in and of itself, it is great. But Topher Grace's story is the one you're going to want to watch, is the one they spend the most time on, and honestly is the most interesting. It's great to see a happily married couple, happy family man in Dennis Quaid's family that goes through a realistic family event. You know, they could be any typical family out there in the world today that you're used to. It could be your own family too, because they just seem like they are not playing the roles of a family, but they are actually a family, the way they pulled it off. You also got to give credit to Chris Weiss and Paul Weiss for the script that they wrote for it. So if you haven't seen it yet, or it's been a while since you've seen it, you want to revisit it, I highly recommend revisiting In Good Company. I don't know if it's available on any streaming services. They don't have any Blu-ray of it yet. They only have the DVD. They only had the DVD on Amazon, and they only had the used DVD at FYE, which I bought. But again, it was fine. There was no scratches, no nothing. It was as if they watched it once and said, I'm going to sell this and make some money off of it. But definitely, In Good Company. And after you watch In Good Company, I hope you'll be sitting there going, damn, Topher Grace should have been a bigger star, because he is that good in the movie. All right, we've got about 10 minutes, so let's run through this stuff real quick. A real quick In Dreams thing. It's one of these things where occasionally I'll remember my dreams, but not always. This one is just a real quick one that I actually remembered from today, and it's the weirdest dream I had. I saw a baby drinking dog water. And then I said, no, you don't drink the dog water. And then it flashes to an outdoor scene by a giant rock and grass, like in Ireland or something like that. And the baby's drinking from a puddle. I was like, no, you can't drink from a puddle. Drinks from the swimming pool. No, drinks from the bath water. So I was dreaming about babies drinking water. Go figure. So that's your In Dreams aspect for this week. Movies that came out this week. Again, see, are they all movies? No, there's a TV show in there. Okay. Hocus Pocus came out 25 years ago. That has grown recently to becoming one of the key Halloween movies to watch around Halloween. Again, I discussed earlier, watching movies around the holidays that they're made up of. Hocus Pocus is one that a lot of people love to watch around Halloween. I'll be the first to admit it. I've never seen Hocus Pocus. Maybe it's about time I did, because I love Halloween. I love to always catch a new Halloween movie, and a good cast, and Kathy and Jimmy, Bette Midler and Sarah, Jessica Parker. So that was out 25 years ago. So 25th anniversary, that's good. Also out 25 years ago this week was Free Willy, which I guess is a happy story about a captive whale that goes out into the ocean, But then you got to think about, will it be able to survive out in the ocean? I don't know. I guess that's why they made Free Willy too. I don't know. The original RoboCop came out 31 years ago this week. Highly violent sequence where Peter Weller's character gets tortured and shot and killed. That threw me off a little bit. But after that sequence, the RoboCop armor is fantastic. You have great performances by Kurtwood Smith. Speaking of the 70s show, he was fantastic in that. And he's great as the bad guy in this. You also get Ronnie Cox, who plays another really good bad guy in this. And one of my personal favorite character actors, Miguel Ferrer, was in RoboCop as well. You get Nancy Travis and Peter Weller as well, playing the police officers. The character and the look of RoboCop 31 years ago was absolutely stunning and amazing, and I loved it. And they did a remake of it with Michael Keaton, which I didn't watch, and I don't really have a desire to watch. And now they're going to be doing another remake of it. So we'll see. But it's not something that really interests me that much. I didn't see this pop up, but I'll tell you why in a second. The Dark Knight is celebrating its 10 years. Came out 10 years ago, so it's been a lot of people have been talking about it this year because it's its 10th anniversary. Yes, Heath Ledger did a fantastic job as the Joker. Maggie Gyllenhaal killed the movie for me because I thought she was awful. Aaron Eckhart's portrayal of Harvey Dent was pretty much spot on how I expected the character to be and the way it should have been. As we talked about before, Harvey Dent should be a person that people would think could be Batman, and Aaron Eckhart did a really good job of portraying that. Dark Knight is a great comic book movie. Is it the greatest? Not really. It's great, don't get me wrong, and Heath Ledger deserved the Oscar he got. But the greatest comic book movie of all time? I don't know if I'd say that. But here's what I wanted to mention. And this is kind of a sad story, but it wasn't mentioned at all during this week thing. Because Dark Knight came out 10 years ago. So they saw that it did really well during this time frame. So they decided, we're going to release the last Dark Knight movie, Dark Knight Rises, the same time frame. So they did that 6 years ago. I don't know if you all remember what also happened 6 years ago. I think as of yesterday, I believe. Dark Knight Rises came out. It was an okay movie. I thought Anne Hathaway's Catwoman was okay. I thought Tom Hardy's Bane was awful. And I hated the appearance of Talia al Ghul. There are some major glaring holes in the story. And I also was not a fan of Hermit Batman. And there's the holes in the story really got to me a little bit, but it was good to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt have a role in this as well and did a really good job with that. And continuing that they did a combination of the Breaking Bat storyline and also No Man's Land, the way they were able to combine that. It might have been forcing the issue a little bit because No Man's Land would actually be a great movie on its own, actually be a great trilogy on its own, to be honest. But that's neither here nor there. That's what you should do for your next Batman movie. It's No Man's Land. Trust me. No Man's Land was a great comic book story about how Gotham City suffered from earthquakes and epidemic of disease, and then an earthquake wrecked the town. So the government's like, we're not going to deal with you anymore, and blew up all the bridges out of Gotham City so people who didn't escape were stuck on the island of Gotham, and the bad guys and good guys all were out there, and it was mass hysteria, and it's a great storyline. But unfortunately, along with the arrival of Dark Knight Rises 6 years ago, you're going to have to do hand in hand the awful Aurora movie theater shooting that occurred 6 years ago also. At a midnight viewing of The Dark Knight Rises, when it first opened that Thursday night and a Friday, the midnight viewing of Dark Knight Rises at an Aurora, Colorado movie theater, a psychopath threw smoke bombs, smoke grenades, and unloaded bullets into the movie theater showing the Batman movie, killing, I think, 23 people. Maybe not that many, but it was a lot, maybe 8 people, and injuring 23 maybe. But it killed a lot of people, and it caused some changes to the way you do stuff in theaters. Hans Zimmer, who did the music for Dark Knight Rises, did a wonderful song called Aurora, which was to raise money for the families, stuff like that, who lost family members. The sociopath was captured and has been given, I think it was since it was 8 deaths, I think he's been given 8 consecutive life sentences. So he's going to be in jail for 234 years, something like that, which obviously he's not going to last that long. And that also means I think there's no way for parole, I think. But Aurora is a haunting, sad song, and if you can find it on YouTube, I highly recommend you listen to it. It's stunning, and it's sad to think about what happened in Aurora 6 years ago on this week. Already talked about the moon landing. Clueless is 23 years old this week. Paul Rudd, going to go see him in Ant-Man the Wasp tomorrow. Alicia Silverstone, a whole cast of thousands. Dan Hedaya, fantastic. Road Rules is a TV show on MTV. Now, MTV made it big with The Real World, where they put a bunch of strangers together in a house and filmed them, and they had all their issues and stuff like that. So they did it every year at a different location. Well, it was such a success. They're like, we should try something different. Let's try something a little bit different. Let's try something called Road Rules, where we put a bunch of people together in a Winnebago or a camper, whatever you want to call it, and have them drive across the United States and stop at certain locations and have to perform acts or duties or whatever, and experience things and see how they react. So it's like The Real World, but on the road. It was an interesting show to begin with, and it just sort of lost itself, I guess, amongst the whole. Well, it's the same old damn thing. You get a bunch of people together. Some of them are horny. Some of them try dating. Some of them flirt. Some of them get angry at each other. Some of them threaten to kill each other. And then they do these crazy events and trials and stuff like that at some of the most beautiful places in the world, and to make money and stuff like that. And they go on other real vacations and stuff like that. So kind of interesting stuff. The Neverending Story is 34 years old this week. Revenge of the Nerds is also 34 years old this week. Another great film. When Harry Met Sally is 29 years ago. And today, Aliens is 32 years old today. The sequel to Alien, this one directed by James Cameron, is probably the best. Well, some people could say the original Alien was, it's good. The original Alien by Ridley Scott is just as good as the James Cameron Aliens, but they're different enough that you could like both for different reasons. Before I do Check Eye Day, I forgot to write this down. I'm trying to remember what there's DC Comics, and we'll talk about this more with MJ, is going to be stacked with great creators come this fall. We already know Brian Michael Bendis is going to be on Superman, and Tom King is still going to be on Batman. But we just discovered, and I talked about this last week, Willow Wilson, a Muslim woman who had been writing the Miss Marvel character for the longest time, is going to be taking over Wonder Woman this fall for DC, which I think is the absolute best writing news of all. Then we learned that Kelly Sue DeConnick, who made her name in Captain Marvel, is going to be taking over Aquaman, and hence also adds Mara to it, because Mara and Aquaman are inseparable, and they're both great characters, and to have it under Kelly Sue DeConnick is a fantastic idea. Grant Morrison, who is hit or miss for me. Sometimes has some good hits, some has some misses. And who is the artist? It's a famous artist, but for life of me, I can't remember who it is. Will be taking over Green Lantern and making it more of a police procedural. They'll make Hal Jordan be the new Green Lantern, be the main Green Lantern. I'm not the biggest Hal fan in the world, and that also means then that the Green Lanterns comic that's out there now is going to be the de facto Green Lantern Corps comic, which is a shame because I like seeing the adventures of Simon and Jessica. I feel like I'm missing a character, a writer for... And I think it was Snyder writing Justice League is the other. Scott Snyder, who's still writing Justice League right now, is writing it now. Josh Williamson is still going to be writing The Flash. He's done a great job with The Flash. And I think that's it. But DC is going to be stacked this fall when it comes to new talent and the writers they have. So kudos to them for doing this signing and getting these people involved with it. Let's finish up with Check Eye Day, and then we'll get out of here. So I didn't think I was going to go 2 hours, but now I'm going over 2 hours. So, hey, unbelievable. Whenever you least expect you're going to do something and you surpass it, it's interesting. So give me a second to get Twitter set up. For those who don't know, Check Eye Day is every day is literally a holiday. They might not all be ones like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Easter, whatever, but they are weird holidays. And these are true holidays that are really out there. So Check Eye Day accumulates them and posts them on their website, checkeyeday.com, or you can follow them on Twitter at Check Eye Day. So for the 21st, which is today, we have Invite an Alien to Live With You Day. Okay. Is Legal Drinking Age Day, 21, I get it. National Junk Food Day is today. National Tug of War Tournament was today. National Woody Wagon Day was today. Take a Monkey to Lunch Day was today. Toss Away the Could Haves and Should Haves Day was today. Yesterday was International Chess Day. This is July 20th. Moon Day, Nap Day, National Fortune Cookie Day, National Lollipop Day, National Ugly Truck Contest. The 19th of July was Flight Attendant Safety Professionals Day, Get to Know Your Customers Day, National Daiquiri Day, National Flitch Day, National Raspberry Cake Day, New Friends Day, Stick Out Your Tongue Day was July 19th. Tomorrow, the 22nd of July, is going to be Summer Leisure Day, Spoonerism Day, Pie Approximation Day, Parents Day, National Rat Catchers Day, National Panouche Fudge Day, Lion Share Day, Hammock Day, and Auntie's Day. So that's what you get for this week. So that is that. That is this week's episode. Next week's episode, I'm going to definitely try to get MJ Khan on, and we'll talk comics. I'm going to go see. Ant-Man and the Wasp tomorrow with the family, and so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about everything we talked about here on San Diego and anything that pops up from Sunday's view on it. I'm going to see if I can get a portion of. Yeah. This is an excerpt from Aurora, the song that Hans Zimmer did in honor of those killed at the Aurora shooting movie theater. It was 6 years ago today. Let's remember those who lost their lives in a pointless shooting that had no reason for it other than someone trying to be psychotic. Hopefully they will be in good company wherever they may be. Hopefully in heaven. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.